Welcome to the SubHub podcast. I'm Danny Moreno.
And I'm MK Sullivan. And today we get to sit down with David Sinclair. We have been total fangirls on this podcast of David Sinclair for the last year, so we were very excited. But for those of you who don't know, David Sinclair is a professional trail runner and ski mountaineer currently based in Montpelier, Virginia, but kind of like bopping back and forth between here and Europe. David recently went all in on being an athlete to focus on making the 2026 ski mountaineering Olympic team. He also was recently sponsored by Craft for trail running, making his dive into the professional world even better. David had an incredible 2024 season with wins and course records at the Broken Arrow 46K, Speedgoat 50K, JFK 50 miler. It was a crazy season for all of us to watch. And we talked to David about his versatility in the sport. The man has the ability to crush a VK all the way up to 100K, as we've seen, and his background, as well as his training, and what's next for the American 50K powerhouse. We did record this episode much earlier than it's coming out, so hopefully David has already crushed the ski mountaineer race in Bormio that we talk about at the end of this episode, just in case you guys are a little bit confused.
Yeah, that definitely. Hopefully, he had a great race and helped secure a spot for Team USA in the Olympics. So, time will tell, I guess. But yeah, before we get into this episode with David, a new newsletter came out this week of the
Yes.
SubHub headlines. So if you aren't already subscribed, consider subscribing. You know what? Go and read it. Get a little taste of it. We know you're going to be hooked. We include an opinion column, results, training tips. We go on and on, athletes of the month, etc. Each month catered to what happened in the sub ultra trail running world the month prior. So yeah, check out our show notes. The link is in there, our website, our Instagram, our YouTube notes, all wherever there's notes about the SubHub podcast, you can
It's
probably
there.
find it. You can find it. But before we get into this episode with David, we do want to give a huge shout out to our partner, Never Second. Talking to David, him being such a versatile athlete, I couldn't help but feel a little proud of myself because lately I've been feeling like a triathlete as I return to full-time running. And honestly, one of the sports that I've been able to work on my gut the most is swimming. So I've been really leaning into adding gels into my water or the citrus drink mix into my water, the C90 orange packets into my water. So whether I'm swimming 30 minutes or 60 minutes, it is one of the easiest sports I've found to help train my gut and be able to take in more carbs, regardless of the effort. So if you are also cross training like me on top of your running, consider trying out Never Second. Like I mentioned, like you could put in the gels or the drink mix. It's all versatile, just like David and myself right now.
I love
So
it.
I love it. So consider using our code SUBHUB25 for 25% off all of your orders at never2.com. Now back to this episode, or now to the episode with David.
Hey, David, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the Sub Hub here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you on. Where are you at currently?
I'm settled in. We moved to Montpelier, Vermont, in the beginning of December. We moved into apartments. I'm home for a little bit here, kind of in between. I just did one trip to do some ski mountaineering races in Europe, and then got another week at home, and then I'll head over to Europe for a bunch more ski racing through mid-April.
Vermont is where you're originally from, right?
Yeah, so I grew up in this place called the Mad River Valley, which is like 20 minutes from Montpelier, which is the capital of Vermont. That's where I'm living now. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I grew up here, and yeah, love it. Love the community. It's good to be back home, but I do miss like the last 5 years when I got into Skimo and stuff. I was living out in California, so it's been a bit of an adjustment moving back, but overall a really good change.
That's cool.
Definitely some different snow.
Yeah, we're lucky. We've had actually like pretty cold weather and lots of good snow right now. It snowed a bunch over the weekend. It's like been powder skiing the last couple of days.
I love it. Well, yeah, for our folks, this is actually your first time on the Sub Hub Pod, and we know you recently did a podcast episode on the free trail with the Dylan Bowman. But for our audience here, we wanted to provide a little bit of background first. And so for us, we are really interested, like, as you mentioned, you're into Skimo now, but you are a very versatile mountain athlete. And so kind of what is the evolution of David? Like, where did sports begin? Has it always been part of your DNA?
Yeah, I mean, going way back, I was just an active kid, so I played all the different team sports growing up. In Vermont, they have some cool programs where like all the kids in schools get to go skiing on like Wednesdays. So I grew up doing a little bit of alpine skiing, a little bit of Nordic skiing, and then kind of like in elementary school and middle school, I like kind of got into the more endurance side of sports. Realized I was like good at running and started having some good results in like the local cross country ski races. So I just totally fell in love with cross country ski racing and was completely focused on that all the way through like high school and college. And running was kind of just a supplemental, like what you did in the off season to get ready for ski season. So yeah, from there it's like kind of evolved just because like cross country skiing is such a complex sport and you can only do it when there's snow on the ground. So you get to do lots of different cross training, like go hiking, go trail running, go get on your bike and stuff. So I just kind of became an all around endurance athlete. And then after I like hung up my cross country skis competitively after college, I got a little more into like competitive trail running and running marathons for quite a few years there. And then it got back into cross country skiing through becoming like a full time ski coach. And then I was doing that in California the last 5 winters, living at Sugar Bowl ski area and just kind of like started dabbling with uphill skimo skiing. And yeah, it has just kind of been an adventure and worked out really well that I jumped in a few like more and more competitive races over the last couple of years. Last year did well at the like US Skimo Nationals, got named to the US Skimo national team. So now I'm kind of just chasing the dream this winter, trying to do a bunch of World Cups for Skimo and seeing how it goes and shakes out. For the US is trying really hard to qualify for the 2026 Olympics, where Skimo will be an Olympic sport for the first time.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit later because we have a lot of questions about how to qualify, what that looks like for you. But first I want to ask, like, was cross country skiing kind of like something that your parents also did? I mean, that's super cool that you guys had the whole ski thing for all the school children on Wednesdays. That's like such a dream just to be able to like do that as part of school. Or is that just like a Vermont thing? Because, Sophia Lockley, also cross country skier and very good uphiller mountain athlete. Her whole family was like skiers. It's in her blood. But like what did that look like for you outside of the school program?
Yeah, there's a lot of like different backgrounds in skiing. So like neither of my parents grew up doing a lot of skiing, and they both kind of just like learned about the sport after they moved to Vermont, and like so both kind of in later and in their 20s and 30s like learned how to cross country ski and alpine ski. But they both like ended up really liking cross country skiing. So they had both my brother and I like just learn to ski. It's kind of what you do here in Vermont. Like they have that awesome school program. I think they call it GISP, where like I think almost every kid in Vermont at least gets out on skis. So it's like if you live here, you're gonna like at least have the opportunity to learn how to ski no matter like your economic background, which is just awesome. And then on the cross country side, they have this program that's called the Bill Koch League, which is just a youth ski league. And so probably like there must be like 15 or 20 different like little programs throughout the state where they just get young kids out skiing like in age groups. And so it just kind of starts out as like a fun thing to do. You go out with your friends and ski around. So I did the Bill Koch like youth ski league in the Mad River Valley. And we'd get out 1 or 2 days a week and just kind of mess around with your friends on skis. And that like slowly you learn to love skiing, and there'll be opportunities to race. It starts out with something called like the lollipop agers, or like everyone under 5. And so you kind of just ski around a field and then they give you a huge lollipop at the end. So that's how racing started out for skiing for me. And then like slowly gets more competitive, and you go to you can go to like the Bill Coke Festival where they have all like the, every like two grade age group kind of just goes, and all the kids from New England will race there. So as I got into like fifth grade, I think I got a little bit more into the competitive side, and that just kind of blossomed into this opportunity I had to go to a private school called Green Mountain Valley School, which is right in the town I grew up in, Waitsfield. And so they're like a ski academy basically. So almost all the kids that attended the high school are like competitive alpine racers, and then about like 10% of us in a school of 100 kids were cross country ski racers. So my like entire high school, I had the privilege of having like the entire morning to go skiing all winter long and train for cross country skiing. So I'd run cross country in the fall, and just do all sorts of different multi-sport for cross training throughout the summer.
Yeah, it's super interesting because as trail running is evolving and growing as a sport, I can't help but wonder like if some people are like, how do you create the perfect mountain runner? And whether it was on purpose or on accident, I feel like you were being created to be like the perfect mountain runner with all the skiing and cross country and all this aerobic work pretty much your whole life growing up. So that's really, really, really cool, especially from folks that like grew up in the city and stuff like that, like hearing of this lifestyle. That's incredible. I am curious, like you did mention that you kind of like put the skis away for a little while, like you stepped away from it and then you came back to it. And I'm curious if you like, did you feel burnout from doing it your entire life, or what was the reason for that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of life happens. So I wouldn't say I ever got burnt out. It's just I loved racing through like high school, and then like I was on the D1 team at Dartmouth through college, and was like some of the best years of my life. But after that, I was like kind of on the cusp of being like almost good enough to make it for the U.S. ski team, but never quite got to that level. So I think I tried to keep racing somewhat competitively for a year after I graduated from college, and just like didn't have a very good season. It felt like a very big gap to like get to the level where you're going to Europe and racing World Cups and making the U.S. ski team. So you know I just moved on in my life, ended up going to grad school, and like so as I like stopped racing competitively for cross country skiing, I just was like, okay, I'll start running more. I got the this passion to try to like you know try to run a fast marathon, and like I kind of slowly whittled my way down over like 3 or 4 years to get from in the like 230s to finally get under 219. So and then from there, like at that point I didn't even know like what this trail racing world was, or that like it was just kind of starting to grow in like the mid teens, late teens. um and yeah, so I started jumping in a few trail races and just fell in love with that side of the sport too. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely
And
had a like a crazy background that like we'd go run for like 12 to 20 miles like every weekend on the Appalachian Trail, and that's just what we did for cross training in the fall in college. So it's like we were doing all this trail running. We were trail running pretty fast on like gnarly technical terrain on the Eastern Appalachian Trail in New Hampshire, and like yeah, it was
just
a
running like 12 to 20 miles on, casual college runs on the trails. Oh man, that's awesome. And you ran like 2:16 in the marathon prior to carbon shoes, didn't you?
yeah. I set my marathon PR back in maybe 2016 or 17. I ran CIM a couple years when I was living out in Flagstaff, Arizona, going to grad school for geology, and yeah, just kind of trained really well. And I think I ran Sam the first time and like got down to 221. I was like, wow, that was such a good race. And then like okay, like had another really good training block the next fall. And I was like, well, I'm way fitter. So I went into the race like being confident I could get under 218, and then just kind of chased a big pack, and yeah, was pretty psyched to get it 216.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't know that about you just because you are, like so well known in the trail world now. But David has run a sick fast marathon in the past and probably could run an even faster one now if I had to guess. But kind of before we dive into our next topic, which is we want to talk to you about your training a bit. Um, you running a 2:16 marathon is like a great example of just like your incredible versatility in the sport. You crush distances from VK all the way up to 100K. You do Skimo, and as we'll talk about in a little bit too, like even the Skimo racing is like pretty short stuff right now, but then you can still also go win JFK in a course record time. So how do you schedule a year when you're doing so many different distances and also sports, I guess?
I mean, I think it comes back to I base a lot of my like training philosophy on just what I learned over, a couple decades, like on the cross country ski side. Uh, and then like try to add in some of the principles from like trying to run fast marathons. So like my main goal is always just like to keep a high aerobic volume throughout most of the year. And just get really like high base fitness, and then I think that'll translate really well. Like getting really fit helps like prevent burnout, and then on top of that, I think actually like skiing through the winter for me helps on the mental side because it's just a different challenge. You get to like you switch from running and like you can see that you're every week to week you're getting a little faster and stronger. On skis, you give yourself a break from 6 months of just kind of grinding on the running side, and then in the spring you're actually like quite motivated again. And if you had like some kind of niggles and overuse things on the running side, it actually can be like pretty helpful to just like not worry about hitting big mileage. So yeah, try to incorporate high aerobic volume. I've kind of dabbled back and forth on like how much strength training I do. The last like year or two, I've been trying to incorporate more like gym work again, especially for uh, just kind of like overall durability. And I think with the shorter Skimo events, it's going to be a big focus. And then yeah, a good bit of cross training. So even like when I was prepping for JFK, I was trying to make sure I was getting out like once or twice a week on the bike or on roller skis. So that I could keep like higher overall training volume without just tons of pounding. I'm definitely not like the most durable athlete, so I find that I can't get too greedy with running, and just if I try to do like my normal like track for skiers, we would always track volume in terms of hours, not miles. So like it might be like trying to get 20 hours of training a week. If I just try to hit that like with a bunch of trail running, I'd probably break down. But if I do like 10 or 12 hours of trail running and then supplement with an extra 5 hours of cross training and one or two gym sessions, it seems to keep me a little bit healthier. So I've had my share of injuries, so right now I'm staying pretty healthy, so I'm going to keep doing what's been working.
Yeah. I mean, you answered my question because you touched upon it multiple times, like what is that aerobic base that you like to maintain? So it sounds like it's 10 to 12 hours of running with other stuff sprinkled in when you're running training. Have you ever experienced like pushing it too far? And like, have you found that line yet, or do you think you're still discovering it as you get older?
That's a tough question. I definitely like not I can't go like crazy high volumes of like running mileage because my tendons or like I'll just get overuse injuries. So if I like am consistently pushing over 100 miles of running, I'm like I find that I tend to get injured. But like keeping it a little more balanced actually I think just keeps me overall stronger. Maybe a little more injury prone. And then yeah, I think much over like 20, maybe like I could dabble up to like 25 hours of aerobic training in like a big block if there's like a good mix, especially like with skiing. I think you can get away with a lot like higher volume of like just aerobic training because there's a lot less impact. But at a certain point, you will start to break down. So you just have to like factoring in the life stress is huge. Factoring just listening to your body. So I've had quite a few like scares or like just I get really tired, and then I just try to back off whenever I can. I don't track like my resting heart rate or like hormones or anything like that super carefully, but I just try to it's always better to be a little undertrained, right? Is what you say. Anyone you're coach, you're like we want them to get like 95%, not 105%. So I've definitely been prone to overdoing it here and there, and like I had to just like take a 10-day block completely off back in like the beginning of September because I think I just didn't recover as quickly as I did from all like the stress of moving and like having a really big race at JFK just like took a toll on my body. And yeah, I was just exhausted. I ended up taking 10 days fully off, plus had like a weird little toe injury. And then like, that was enough that I felt like really, really unfit when I started training again at the end of September. But, it was cool to see in that training block for JFK that I just like week to week, I was getting fitter and fitter. And then,
Yes.
it didn't negatively affect me. It probably had the best race of my life at JFK.
Yeah, many times those breaks end up saving us, I feel like, and then catapult us into the next training block.
Hey y'all, it's MK. It's that time of year where everyone you know is getting sick. My husband works for the school district, so we are constantly at the ready. I've been using Beekeeper's Naturals immune boosting products, and they've become a huge part of keeping my system strong during tough training blocks, especially during the winter. Beekeepers uses propolis, which is packed with antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. I like to use a throat spray if I start feeling like I'm getting sick, or if I'm getting close to a race, or if somebody else I know that I've been around has been sick. If you're looking for a natural way to support your immune system, I highly recommend giving Beekeepers Naturals a try. Use code SUBHUB20 for 20% off of your orders at beekeepersnaturals.com.
As someone who is recently still actively dealing with, tendons and that sort of injury, I can't help but hone in on what you said, like overuse with your tendons. Is it like in your ankles? Have you like rolled your ankle a lot or ski crashes or something like that?
Yeah, I think everyone's different, but I just all my overuse injuries have been tendon injuries, and I've never had a stress fracture. So
Yeah.
I just have strong bones and yeah, relatively weaker tendons. I've had like a few Achilles issues over the years. Had a really bad bout of plantar fasciitis one winter, and then I just kind of had these chronic like IT band issues, which have been relatively good the last year. But I did have to get that IT band surgery um, a couple years ago because it just got so bad that I couldn't do anything. But
Sounds
yeah,
like
it's
somebody
cool.
I
I
know.
mean, I have like decades of like pretty high volume of aerobic training. So the cool thing is like that it takes years to build it, but it also doesn't go away overnight. So I've had plenty of times where I just you have an injury and you take a you know even up to like 6 months of like essentially no training. And for me personally, I thought it was really cool. Like it can actually be motivating because it's like you start back and you're really out of shape, but with like the lifetime aerobic base, I can get back into shape really, really quickly. And like that process of like starting from, like what feels like ground zero. And, you go out for a run, you're like, oh my gosh, like I ran 9-minute pace and I'm like wrecked and sore. And then, a month later, you're back to, cruising sub 6-minute miles on like, rolling trail. You're like, wow, that's a fun process.
Yeah, Danny's like texting me in the chat right now. She's like, I feel like I'm listening to just MK because I'm the same way. I have never had a bone stress injury in my life, but my tendons are like always what are my main issue.
But also just like him referring to like the years of work, like
Oh yeah.
because it's just like really cool to hear David, because I think very highly of you as an athlete and person, and like as someone who's coming out of injury, like having the
Yeah.
confidence that it's gonna come back and like trust. And MK has just been in my ear this whole time saying exactly what you're saying. It's like it's literally you've been doing this your entire life, like 5, 6 months off, like it's gonna come back quicker than you expect
I
it.
know it's like I have the same issue where like I know that is true deep down, but even like when I've been on the couch for a couple of months, like you start feeling a little better, and so like so many times that I've like tried to rush back just a little bit too fast, and then that's when you end up in like the cycle of right repeated injury, and all of a sudden you can't race for like a whole year. So trying to trying to avoid that, like the fitness will come back, but it takes time to, especially like you got to rebuild the strength, you got to rebuild the tendon strength, and like we are definitely more
Yeah.
prone to getting a new injury when you're first coming back. And
Yep.
I even find that between like mentally, the break from running to ski all winter is like awesome, but the downside is you come back and you have really high like aerobic fitness because you've been skiing all winter and you're strong, but you don't have any of the running like base mileage. So you find that you're pretty fit and you feel like you can handle it, and then often think the tendons are like the weak spot because they just,
Yeah.
they need a lot longer to adapt to like the repetitive stress of running.
I think we can all be pretty bad at like trusting that the fitness will be there. It takes so much time to like actually lose fitness. But yeah, just having the patience to like build your body back to a point where it can handle the type of work that you like think you can do in your head is probably, just the hardest part, I think, for most, especially just like high achieving people in general, but like professional athletes when you're trying to like, work back into racing and like, make money and stuff. There's so much pressure there, but um so I'm curious, like, how do you plan to push your limits in each of these sports without kind of going over that line? Like, do you think about specific thresholds for each of these, like for Skimo and for trail running? We'll just focus on those two since that's mostly what you compete in.
What do you mean by thresholds there?
Danny, do you want to clarify? This was your question.
Yeah, just like how do you balance not burning out in one sport? Like, since you're competing all year round, like, do you work with a coach that kind of helps to balance the training throughout the entire year?
Because
Or,
obviously you're taking break or like you're taking a break from each of the sports, but you're still competing like pretty much 12 months out of the year.
yeah.
Yeah, so this is something I'm like definitely worried about right now, and have kind of like some plans for a running season, but I'm also just like gonna respect that I need to play it by ear a little bit and like see how my body responds, because the last 5 years I was like working professionally as a ski coach. So all winter I would just like, kind of drop back to the running mileage, and, I would jump in a couple like local ski races and maybe do like one or two like, weekends of like slightly more competitive skimo races. But until I got called up last like March and invited to come to the Skimo World Cup finals over in Italy, I hadn't done like any, really serious events for Skimo. I was more like just fun, like staying fit, jumping in competitions. But this year, it's a lot more pressure and just a much, much higher race load, kind of going back more to like, what I would do in college, where you're racing like, weekend in and weekend out all winter on the Skimo side. So I'm not sure how my body's gonna like respond. I'll, talk to me in mid-April if I'm still motivated and think I'm ready to like segue right into an ultra season. Um, most most people like do need a break, so I'm just gonna have to be really careful with like how my motivation is, and yeah, may it
Yeah.
may it may end up being that I get to mid-April and I'm like, whoa, I just need a break, and I take a month off. But in the past like 5 years, I was kind of using skiing as like to build a really big foundation for a big ultra season. And this year it's like almost a little backwards, where it's like, I was running and racing really hard, but some of my bigger goals this year are to try to like go, see how close I can get to, helping the US make an Olympic spot, and like try to be in the running on the men's side for like actually competing for that spot if we do get it.
Yeah.
And there's a pretty good chance that I end up getting a little burnt out, because I haven't even counted them up, but I've already done probably 10 different ski races, and I might have like 20 up to like 15, 20 more if I do
Oh
the
my
full like
gosh.
World Cup kind of season, plus like this Pyramenta partner race. And yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot a
And
lot more racing than I've done since I was in college. So, and in college I wasn't like, competitively running. We were just run and do time trials, jump in a race here and there for fun.
yeah, we've interviewed both Sophia Lockley and Remy Bonet on this pod, and both of them have talked about like, because I think we talked to Remy a couple of years ago when he was kind of struggling at the beginning of his season, and he was like, "Yeah, I was just still like tired, just did way too much and tried to come right back into Golden Trail." And so it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
like how you manage it. And I guess to kind of like close out the Skimo conversation, and we can move on to a little bit more running after this. So the Olympics in 2026, no, or
Yeah.
yeah, it's 2026, right? Or when, yeah,
Yeah.
Skimo
Next
is
winter.
going to be introduced into the Olympics. And I know that qualifying is a little weird because it is a new event. So can you kind of like briefly explain to us how you might qualify for this team?
Yeah. So I'll give you the crib notes as best as I understand it. So as a like a new sport, for some reason they decided that they can't add more athletes to the Olympics. So they tried to keep the total number of athletes the same, which meant that there are only 18 males and 18 females that will actually qualify for the Olympics. And the two events are going to be the sprint, which is like a 2.5 to 3 minute effort. And they do it modeled off cross country skiing, where there's a qualification round, and then you go six head to head at a time, and they you end up going 4 times. You make it all the way to the final round, and the top 6 move on. So there's only 6 men and 6 women that are going to qualify for that, based on being like the 6 best in the world essentially this year on the World Cup. And then there are 12 men and 12 women that are going to qualify for the mixed relay, which is a slightly longer event than sprint. It's like usually takes like 8 minutes, 9 minutes for each, the man and the woman, to go. And you end up in the head-to-head part. You go like the woman goes, tags the man goes for 8 minutes, tags the woman goes again, and then the man finishes. So it ends up being like a low 30-minute race for the best teams, where you're racing half the time with two big efforts. And so there's 12 countries that are going to qualify for that, and there's a whole like list for like how they're actually going to allocate those 12 spots to the different countries. But the best pathway for anyone from the US to get in is to be the top country from the Americas. So the main competition for that is actually Canada right now. So the US team is really focusing on beating Canada head to head in all of these World Cup mixed relays this winter. And if we do that, we will most likely qualify as a country. If we did a little better and we're like in the top 6 countries overall, we could get a spot and not have to beat Canada. But right now, we've been kind of duking it out with Canada for like the 11th to 12th country in the first couple mixed relays on the World Cup this year. So we beat Canada by, I think, only 1 spot in the first 2 mixed relay World Cups. So there's like 4 or 5 more mixed relays in this like qualification period. So it's going to be like kind of a fierce competition just to get that Olympic spot.
Who is your mixed relays partner right now?
So I just did 1 mixed relay over in Andorra a couple weeks ago, and I was paired with Kelly Wolf from Colorado.
Okay.
And we had both had kind of like medium so days, and actually we just missed making like the B final. They do the top 12 countries make the A final, and then the next 12 teams make the B final, with this like whatever asterisk that only 2 teams per country can be in the B final. So we ended up missing it by like less than a second. And I think, but you don't have a set partner, so that like the US coaches can kind of just make a call on who they want to pair up. So you do the first round just against the clock for time, and then they add up those times and then actually do a like the head-to-head portion where each athlete does 2 more laps of the course. So yeah, we have a really strong, the good news is we have like a really strong, especially on the men's side, throwing down lots of good times, and our women are like cracking on the door. So if we can get a little bit just like deeper and start figuring out like the best pairs, then I think we're going to be stronger as a country. I kind of got spanked by some of the other men, which is good. But it will make it harder for me to personally get that Olympic spot. But right, like we'll see how the rest of the season goes.
Yeah,
it's fun. We're all just kind of working together right now, like all trying
just
to
to
have
get the spot.
days, working to it's like get the spot, like sharing tips on like how to get faster at the transitions, because this mixed relay especially, it has 2 different climbs, and then you end before the tag or the finish by putting skins back on. So in an 8-minute race, it's if you're not great at it yet, like you might be spending over like a minute and a half or something doing the actual transition part. So that's like what 15+% of the time on course is like all this technical stuff, like ripping your skins off and stowing them, or putting your skins back on, or putting your skis onto your pack for the boot pack. So like that's where I've been trying, where I should be probably spending more time practicing that stuff than like out skiing, getting fitter, because there's way more time to shave off in these like short technical events by getting really, really good at transitions.
Yeah. And then once you guys have secured a spot for Team USA, do you have like a trials where you guys compete for that spot, or does Team USA choose?
Yeah, I don't know if it's even officially published yet. There probably are criteria published yet. I have not even completely read them. I think it's a combination that where they're gonna like consider the results on the World Cup, and then everyone who has done well enough to at least like be eligible for that Olympic spot will probably in like December next year get invited to a camp that'll be like the final selection camp, um, and have to race head to head. But I don't know the exact criteria. So right now we're just all kind of trying to work together and do our best to get the spot because the specifics of which athlete goes doesn't actually matter if the U.S. doesn't qualify for the Olympics.
Yeah, don't want to put the cart before the horse. Gotta qualify first. Um, Thank you for all of that. That was very
Yeah,
educational.
it's probably good
And
for me to go through. It's pretty complicated.
it is, it sounds really complicated. Yeah, it would be super sick. It's an interesting sport because from what I know of it, yes, Europe has like been doing this for a very, very long time and very focused on it. And it's almost like they're, fall cross country is fall Skimo racing. So it's really cool to be seeing trail runners that we know, jumping in the Skimo game and getting
Yeah,
after
it's
it.
cool to see more and more like trail runners try picking it up even if they're not into like racing super competitively as a good tool for base training. If you are lucky enough to live somewhere where you have good access to snow, it's a like I think it's a great mental break and like definitely like is surprising because you get super strong and super fit and like you might not feel good right away when you get back to running and you're running kind of in the flat might kind of disappear for a little bit, but I definitely find that I surprise myself like within a few weeks of a little more running. You can be like as strong as ever, especially on the steep climbs.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree anymore.
Hey y'all, it's MK. If you've seen me out on the trail or at a race this season, you've probably seen me rocking the Pit Viper Admirers. These heart-shaped glasses have been my go-to for a look good, feel good attitude on race day and just in training. Not only do they make me look way cooler than I am, but they come at an affordable price and they come in a style for any personality or mood you might be having. Pit Vipers are the sunglasses would wear if sunglasses could wear sunglasses. If you want to run in style, go to the link in our show notes for 15% off your next Pit Viper purchase. See you out on Party Mountain.
We really, really, really want to talk about this year beyond Skimo, but we're gonna reel it back really quick before we jump into 2025, and that's your 2024 Broken Arrow course record win, Speedgoat course record win, JFK course record win. Pretty dang historic year in this sport of trail running. And now that you've had some time to reflect on it, what were some of the biggest lessons you learned, both in training and race day execution last year?
What were the biggest lessons? I think just like that slowly, it's that I've been kind of like working at this ultra running thing for a good like getting up towards 10 years now, and it's been really fun to just like slowly see the progress and that like as my best days are just slowly getting better and better. So yeah, it was a big shift because I like left my job coaching out in California at back in June, so like just before Broken Arrow, and was trying to be a professional for the first time, or like yeah, like a real professional at running for the first time. So that's just like a little scary to be like, okay, there's definitely more on the line, but yeah, just trying to do all the little things now that I have a little bit more time. So like really taking care of my body, like taking the time to stick with a strength routine and mobility if I like it. But yeah, so I think I've just had more time to like kind of optimize my training and be like really prepared. So I think the biggest lessons were like the fueling probably. I think that was the biggest factor in my ultra successes years that I was like, messing around with a few more like nutritional products, doing more fueling like in the long runs, and then was actually fueling a good bit more aggressively in all the ultras that I ran this year. And I don't know, I did 3 ultras or I guess I did 4 ultras technically, but the first one was just a local Reno race as a warm up. Um,
Oh yeah, I
and
forgot you were in Silver State too.
yeah, it was actually a really fun race. Had a great duel with Darren Thomas.
Yeah.
He ran me down the last mile as I was cramping up. So after that, I think I realized that I'd fueled pretty aggressively, but I didn't have any electrolytes in that race, and I was like, okay, I need to up the electrolytes. And then like after that, Broken Arrow, Speedgoat, JFK, I feel like I just totally nailed the nutrition in like all 3 of those races. It was crazy how like yeah, I could tell I was running really really strong, but I like felt way better in the later stages of all of those races than I had before. So I think maybe there's some like slight things in training that were helping, but probably the biggest thing was just like fueling a little more aggressively, still having energy to run hard at the
Yeah.
end. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool. Like looking at Speedgoat, especially because I think I've run it like five, four times now, and just like over the years, like my times have slowly gotten faster. But like as I've gotten faster, I think just like the little things about course knowledge and managing your pacing and your fueling, like every time I've felt like it was actually much easier effort, despite now that I'm running like almost, I think maybe a full like 30 minutes faster than the first time I won Speedgoat back in the day. So yeah,
That's pretty insane, especially on that course. But knowing that course, I think probably helps a ton because
it's
it's
definitely
kind of a weird one.
one of the courses we're knowing like where to burn your matches. Like
Yes.
I've come from like 9-10 minutes back after the first climb on that one and been able to win. So yeah, people like to go out too hard and trash your legs on the first climb and first descent. Then it
Yep.
gets really hard in the back half.
I was gonna ask next, like, if there was a specific race or moment last year that stands out as like a turning point in your approach to racing, but it kind of sounds like maybe it was that Silver State race against Darren where you cramped up and it was like, okay, these are the things I have to fix, and you fixed them and it seems to work. But was there like another, I guess, and maybe it wasn't even 2024, maybe it was prior to that where you just kind of felt like maybe you needed to eat more or you needed to train differently or something like that.
Yeah, I think just that like just slowly building confidence. There were no huge changes. Like I'd always been trying to fuel. I think I just like hadn't really found products that would like go down as easy. So I maybe yeah maybe just the fueling kind of thing and like having it go well at a like Broken Arrow has like given me a little more confidence. Okay, well like, if I could do that many calories an hour and like still feel strong and have no stomach issues, then maybe I can try just a little bit more for a Speedgoat. And the same thing, it's like, okay, well, if that worked for a Speedgoat, it's going to be cooler temperatures, so like it should be even easier to fuel even more aggressively at a JFK. And so I don't, maybe I haven't found the ceiling yet, but like at some point you'll find the limit of like how much you can actually digest, and you're going to have stomach issues at some point. So three for three in the big ultras this year, but like doesn't mean I've like totally nailed the formula. We'll keep having success every time I toe the start line. Had my fair share of like not so great, especially shorter races this year too. So
Well, before we close out 2024, I thought I had one question, but I actually have two questions. The first one, Broken Arrow, like you basically even split. Was that part of the plan, or were you just like going off of feel? And for those that don't know, Broken Arrow happens the weekend before Western States, and the race just, it was already big like years ago, but it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, more international fields, etc. And David won the 46K this year, which is 2 laps of the same loop. Um, and yeah, you basically even split it and in like 2:30, I want to say, 2:30s, which could have placed in the one loop race as well. So yeah, was that part of the plan or were you just going off of like heart rate or something?
I was just I was just running off feel on the first lap. I wanted to be, in contention. So that the first lap just felt pretty controlled. So I was just trying to, run with I think it was like mostly Cam Smith was kind of like the one pushing the pace a lot of the first lap. And it felt, easy. I let the lead pack go like, the first couple of miles. And then as we started actually climbing, it just kind of moved up and I could just tell that my legs were feeling pretty good because it felt like, kind of effortless to like move my way up to the front on that day. And yeah, I was just trying to like run within myself that first lap. And then I got through the lap and it's like, okay, I still feel good. And so I had in the back of my mind, it would be really cool to run a negative split. So it was definitely not an even effort. Like it felt way harder. I went from like, kind of power hiking a lot of the steep climbs the first lap to like working really hard to run up all the climbs and like, then absolutely like, trashing my legs on the final descent to actually achieve the negative split. But yeah, I don't think anyone's probably ever, you know, any of the top runners have negative split that before.
Yeah.
So it was cool. I think that when I won it in 2022, so yeah, 2 years earlier, I think I did like a 10 or 15 minute positive split. And so it was pretty cool to see that I had run like a similar first lap time and then actually maintained it rather than, having a big positive split, which is definitely the norm. It's a hard course to not slow down on.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've also noticed that from watching it. Thank you for that. That's very helpful. And then the last to close out 2024, JFK 50. MK and I were really excited about this race because like you and Eli are just very like you are like the top men right now in our opinions for Americans in the 50K. And like how excited were you to race him? And did having him on the start list, did that like inspire you during your training? And like, were you working off of him, etc.? Like you v Eli, like was that top of mind or was that like more of a passive thought? And then, on the day you did what you did.
Yeah, I don't think I even realized exactly that he was running it until like a little bit over like a month before. But that definitely was like, okay, like it's not going to be enough just to like, be in really good shape. I need to be in the shape of my life if I want to have a chance to, run with Eli and take him down. And so I switched up my training a good bit just to do a lot more like, flatter road running work and did some workouts that were, similar to kind of the workouts I would do when I was training for Sam and some of my faster like road marathons. And but like I said, I had taken a little bit of a break back in September, and it was just a really good fall where I could just feel myself, getting stronger and fitter in workouts week to week. So I hit a couple really good workouts. I was like, whoa, this is feeling easier and like as fast as I was running, with some of my best workouts before running a 2:16 marathon. So I knew I was ready for a big day, and I thought Eli would be like the big X factor. Just like he had an insane year, so I was just like, okay, like try to stay with Eli. We hit the tow path, and he's just like was a machine. I was planning to like run like around 6 minute pace, maybe a little bit under, and just try to like hold that. And I think he was running under like 5:40 pace for a lot of that tow path until he started having stomach issues. So it was like a real blessing that I just sat behind him and turned my mind off. I wasn't planning to race him rather than like go for a course record. And he played right into that luckily and just never asked me to like, take a pull up front. So I was just, 3 feet behind him the whole time, trying to conserve energy, run relaxed, get a little draft on the whole tow path. And I think that, really set me up for a strong close.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah,
it definitely
it was
worked
fun
out for
racing
you.
him. Yeah, I think it
Um,
went a lot. Like I'd written up like, estimated splits for everything. And like the whole day we were just running like way under my like fastest estimated splits. So I was just kind of running and being like, well, I want to win, and not letting him go is not the move. So yeah, I was a little surprised when he finally did start to slow down, and I was like, okay, well, he put us here, so I better like keep keep the pedal on the metal and see if I can get that course record. And yeah, was not expecting in my wildest dreams to be able to run under I thought maybe a perfect day I could be close to the course record, but yeah, 10 minutes under it was a little shocking.
Absolute crusher of a day. A great way to close out the 2024 season, obviously. And that leads us into 2025. And you mentioned earlier, that you took a chance on yourself. You quit your job in California to become more of like a professional athlete. And now you recently joined the craft team. We're teammates now, which is awesome.
Woo!
And so in terms of like going all in, How did sponsorship play into this? Because for the, the 7 months or whatever that you were without a job, you were, I'm assuming, just hoping for a sponsorship. So like, yeah, tell us a little bit about working with Craft, how that happened, and how you feel it's going to help you go all in this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been awesome to have the support of a brand here. They've been like super helpful. It was I started talking to them in the fall a little bit, and then yeah, it just seemed like a really good fit. So um, I just finally got like lots and lots of new shoes and gear, and then starting to try them out. But right now the focus is on skiing. So I haven't been running, but like it just yeah, totally is like a a game changer to have Craft behind me and actually have the like financial freedom to go to some of the biggest races around the world and just like really try to make it here in ultra running for a couple of years. So yeah, I'm really excited about this next 2 years of Craft.
We are also very excited. So we like all the fans, all the David fans are also very excited. Because yeah, if you were doing that non-full time, can't imagine what you could do with a little bit more recovery. Um, as far as goals for 2025, if you're willing to share, you know, question marks around, say, a famous race end of August, question marks around a famous race, say, end of June. Any thoughts or like, yeah, calendar races
But
you're
you're
willing to
also,
share?
yeah, you're also signed up, like, because Danny and I have creeped also, for like
Yeah,
Research,
Sunapee
MK,
Scramble.
research.
Yeah, Sunapee Scramble and like VK for, maybe making the US team. Like, yeah, give us the rundown or whatever you're willing to share because we know it
yeah,
might
I
change.
will.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, big asterisk that like it all depends on how like the rest of ski season goes and like going back to like when I did decide to leave my job, it like a big motivator for that was that the naming to the like US Skimo team and the like just like getting to race in Europe and going all in on that with the Olympic dream. And I've just always like love skiing, so I definitely didn't want to, even though like right now I have the backing of Craft and like I'm not making any money on the Skimo side, but it is like a a passion too. So I even after like the great running season, I was like a little bit wiffle waffling about like, oh, should I just do a little bit of Skimo? And like, I was for a second tempted to go run a Black Canyon. Which congrats by the way,
Ouch.
MK. That race looks pretty brutal, but also awesome. So I would love
Thank
to make
you.
it some year when I'm not doing a full ski season.
Yeah,
But
you should.
yeah, after JFK, I was like, had in the back of my mind, people were telling me, oh, you should go for a ticket. But I think just with ski season, it's unfeasible. So I'm gonna stick with the major A goal for next year. I decided to sign up for CCC. So I'm really excited to be able to to make it over to Chamonix in August and line up at like at least the kind of like seems like the maybe unofficial like world championships of trail running. It's like where everyone wants to go. So it'll be really fun to go to that huge event and like, really test myself because this year I had a ton of success, but they were all like US based races and like they're, some big competitive races, but not on par with any of the UTMB events. So I'm really excited with that. I also have been on like the US Worlds team for mountain running a couple times, and I like am very passionate about trying to like go to the official world championships and like being part of that US team. I think is like just such a cool part of trail running to actually like go to a huge race and be representing your country. So I am quite interested in trying to maybe do like the 40K one at a Worlds if I could get a spot for that. So I will, as of now, plan to open my season maybe with Transvolcania in May, but only if I feel like the like I've been able to run enough and build some mileage to actually be able to handle that. And then the next big goal from there would be to go run Broken Arrow again, just because I love it out there. It'll be a really good excuse to come back out to California, see lots of my friends in Tahoe. And yeah, it's just been like I love the organizers. I know most of the organizers of Broken Arrow, and it's like a cool place to be in June. So I'll do that, and maybe I can like stay out and like support someone at Western States, but won't be towing the line this year. But hopefully I can stay out and cheer you on, MK. I
I'll be
also
there.
did sign up for the VK at Broken Arrow just because it's worked pretty well in the past for me to just jump in the VK and see how it goes.
Are you
I
going to
think
do
that's
the 46 as well, or just the VK?
so I would do the 46K will be the focus, and I'm
Okay,
undecided. I might do the VK. I signed up for it, and
cool.
then in the same sense, I signed up for the Sunapee Scramble just because it's only like an hour
Close.
drive from here, and
Yeah.
I want to go mix it up if it's close by, and yeah, it's going to be like insanely competitive. So it would be I think it'll be a long shot for me to make the classic team there, but it'd be fun to go and like see where I stack up a good fitness test for training before a Broken Arrow.
Yeah. That's a really cool schedule. So yeah, Transvolcania if it ends up fitting post Skimo. So
Broken Arrow,
Broken Arrow, Sunapee, Broken Arrow. Wait, what goes first? Is Sunapee?
yeah, I
Sunapee.
think it's
Yeah.
Sunapee is the beginning of June. I think
Yeah,
Okay.
it's June.
so. It'd be
Broken
like
Arrow.
3-ish weeks, I think, before Broken Arrow.
And then CCC end of August, and then hopefully Worlds. So yeah, that would be great. And like you said, you didn't do any international races last year, and that's 3 really like big ones. So that's really cool. And CCC, I mean, that sounds right up your alley. I
Yeah.
think you're gonna crush that.
Yeah, it'll be a long one for me, but yeah, I think at
imagine
this
it'll
point
be.
I can handle it. I just
I
need to
imagine
make
it'll
sure.
be a golden ticket too.
Oh yeah. So
Like,
that's
it
a big
wouldn't be for
reason why I
sure,
signed up
but
for it. But like the past 2 years, it's been a golden ticket race. So just saying.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a win-win. It just seems like a fun. Like I do in the long run. I think I'd like love to run Western States. So if it's a golden ticket race and just pushing a little bit more towards that, those longer distance ones, I think will be fun to see how they go. I feel like I've really dialed in the 50K distance and now like I've had some good 50 milers, but not many. And the only 100K I've run before was the Canyons back in maybe 2022,
Yeah, which you gave up your ticket.
and I crossed the line, and I was just like felt like I'd been kind of beat up, and just at that point I wasn't really feeling that I wasn't a full-time athlete. So I figured just getting turned around, it's a pretty short turnaround from Canyons to Western States, and I just didn't have it on my cards that year. But I think if I ever get a golden ticket again, I will have to say yes, because yeah, not.
That's what I told myself.
You never know when
Yeah.
you're going to get the opportunity again, and it's
I
such
was
an
like, you
iconic
can only
event.
turn down so many.
As in one. One golden ticket.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like an incredible schedule. Thanks for sharing. Makes it easier to follow and, have an idea where you may or may not be.
Yep.
But yeah, David, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on the Sub Pub Pod. Last but not least, what is next? It's the Skimo race back in Italy.
So the Bormio is the Olympic test event. So there'll be a Skimo sprint race and a mixed relay. So the U.S. team is really focused on this mixed relay event because that's our pathway to the Olympics. So pretty much
Canada.
Everyone on the U.S. ski team is for full bore on having a really good day. Hopefully we just do so well that we don't even have to beat Canada. Just get in the top 6 countries. But try to stay ahead of Canada too.
Cool.
We love Canada, but
we love Canada. We love all our Canada
but we
audience.
want to go to the Olympics.
Totally get that. Well, thank you, and huge good luck at that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's gonna be a really fun adventure next couple months here.
Cool. Well, you guys heard it here first. David's trying out for pretty much every team but the long trail, and we'll see him on skis and on the trails this year. This has been the Sub Hub podcast brought to you by Free Trail. Make sure you go follow David on Instagram as well as the Sub Hub, maybe even Danny and I, who knows? And we'll see you guys next week.